This is the Nightwolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the Masters of the Universe x ThunderCats LionO figure, the Lord of the ThunderCats. I'm surprised I didn't call him the heroic Lord of the ThunderCats, since that seems to be the thing with Masters of the Universe is heroic and evil. And of course in the package right now he is shown in his Eternian garb, or Third Eternian garb as it turns out to be in this case. What I want to show you real quick though is, can you see how bent the Sword of Omens is in that package? That is awful. I don't know who designed this one, but they did not set up that sword properly. And of course, on the back of the package, we have LionO, Lord of the ThunderCats, battles the ancient forces of evil from Third Earth to Third Eternia. You can sheathe the Sword of Omens onto his back. And of course, included in this wave is LionO, the Lord of the ThunderCats, Thundara, the fastest feline in the universe, and Battle Catman, the most powerful cat in the universe. Which I guess this is kind of an interesting thing too. We haven't really seen a whole lot as far as Eternians go for this, but since Third Earth is generally considered to be a future version of Earth, I find myself wondering if the He-Man for this line is actually not Prince Adam but a different He-Man. But then again, we have Skeletor left, so who knows. Or we could just be in an alternate universe period. But let's go ahead and open this sucker up, shall we? Seriously, look how bent that sword is. That is going to have to be heated up and reformed. Actually, so far I've heated it up once to try to reform it so it's straight, and it did not work. So LionO here comes with his belt, his regular ThunderCat calves, which again, I'm not sure why they felt the need to give us just push-ins and not just give us full feet. I don't know how much money they save this way, but we have his toupee for his normal ThunderCat form. Yeah, it's got a slot in the back for the sword, too. Let's try putting it in this way. So, let's see. It actually kind of is looking to me like he's got two harnesses here. So he's got his regular ThunderCats clothes, and then this on top, whereupon I was expecting this to all be painted on. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we got here, shall we? We have our usual white sheet here that shows us all the parts that can be removed. He's got an extra hand so that you can swap out the claw shield. This kind of reminds me of the Eternian playset mouth, kind of like with the way that it looks like they're doing He-Man. But it's funny, the old white sheets used to show us what parts came off, and now they show us which parts to swap out to create different characters. So our mini comic this time is called Third Eternia. We've already gone over this once with the Thundara video, so if you want to hear that dramatic reading, you can watch her video. As we open up our book, we see that Skeletor has learned about the ancient powers of evil and is calling upon their powers to teleport the Black Pyramid to Third Eternia, so that he can have the power to defeat He-Man. However, as the evil leaves Third Earth and heads to Third Eternia, the Sword of Omens awakens, and LionO calls upon power of sight beyond sight, where he learns that Tigra is inside the Black Pyramid as it teleports to another world. The ThunderCats decide to follow him. As part of our first set to go to Third Eternia, we have Panthro, Thundara, and LionO. Their ship crashes down hard because the gravitational readings are off the charts. That's an interesting one, actually, now that I think about it. I wonder why there'd be higher gravitational on Third Eternia. Once they land, LionO calls out, "Thunder! Thunder! Thunder! ThunderCats! Ha!" to get Tiger's attention and to let them know that they are there for him. They are coming to his rescue. However, not only does it call upon Tigra, but we have a couple new visitors. The Thundarian known as He-Man and the Thundarian known as Battlecat Man show up. It does not take them very long to become friends with each other, the two groups, as per usual. Battlecat having known what the Sword of Omens is. I don't know why He-Man doesn't, but, whatever. I'm also kind of curious as to how the Thundarians ended up on Third Eternia. I mean, obviously, they came from Thundara, and I wonder if this is just another group that escaped during the destruction of Thundara, or maybe they were part of an explorational mission, like centuries ago or something. But the group searches and they do find the Black Pyramid, where inside we see that Skeletor's plan is to take the Sword of Omens and the Sword of Power and combine them into one of the most powerful weapons ever, the ultimate weapon, in fact. However, Tiger's having none of it even though he's trapped in a cage, and Skeletor finally calls upon the ancient spirits of evil to transform his decayed form to Skelra, the ever-living. Mwahaha! As part of this wave, of course, we have LionO, the Lord of the ThunderCats, Chitara, the fastest feline in the universe, and Battlecat Man, the most powerful cat in the universe. Although that's kind of weird because He-Man is also now a Thundarian, so he's a cat technically, and isn't he supposed to be the most powerful man or one in the universe? So we already talked about his Thundarian gear, so let's go ahead and take a look at him in his Eternian gear better. I mentioned before that it does appear that this is a harness and this is a harness. Kind of like with the Turtles of Grayskull Splinter, where he had his kimono and then above the kimono he wore the King Grayskull harness. The face sculpt looks pretty good here.
Actually, after having looked at the photos and editing them and the close-ups, I have to say the face is kind of derpy looking.
His hair is actually... it's a little more slicked back than his regular hair. Along with the... I don't even know what you would call this face shield thing. Like a 3-point harness shield or something? I'm not sure. If any of our fighting people out there know, please feel free to comment below. The shoulder pauldron, honestly, it does look like it relates to the Eternian playset, much like He-Man's armor is actually going to as well when we finally see it. He does come with a loincloth, and it's not like the traditional origin style or vintage style where it's, more like a diaper. He's hanging loose underneath there, let's just say. Although that probably has more to do with the fact that we need to take that off in order to turn him into his Thundarian form. He does have a wrist bracer such as He-Man does, and of course we still have the claw shield over there on his left hand. Articulation-wise, the head is on a ball joint, and his hair moves quite easily. In fact, that feels like it moved a lot easier than Chitara's head did. So we can do spinning around, look down, look up. Range of motion is, I guess, average. I kind of want to say it's a little bit less than average, but it probably is just average. On the arms, we can hinge up and down, spin it all around. Elbow's got a single hinge and a pin. Okay, so his right hand, which, honestly, if you take a look at that, it feels like it's not quite as... it doesn't feel like it goes around quite as much as our Origins hands usually do. Which actually, let's go ahead and real quick. It still grips the sword okay, but it does seem to me like it's not as tight of a hold. Alright. So, he actually has an up and down on his right hand, so we're doing he can hold this sword aloft a little bit better. Although, let's be honest, this bracer does interfere with that quite a bit, so that's going to be a little bit awkward in the future. As far as the claw shield goes, we can spin it around. It feels like there's some articulation in there. There is not. So I was wrong. There is no articulation in there at all. It is just a pin. We can swap that with his plain hand. And the other hand just has the in and out articulation. And like Chitara, they gave us more of an open hand claw and not another holding hand. We have a waist swivel. Our legs can kick forward about that far. And back about that far. Oh, this is going to be interesting. And we can also kick out. And as you can probably see in this scene, his shorts are painted onto his inner thighs. We have the standard hinge at the knee, single. We can still spin that around though on the pin part. And of course we can spin the boots around at the boot cut. Hinge at the foot. As well as a spin. So with that, let's go ahead and transform him into LionO, Lord of the ThunderCats from Thundara. I am Lex Luthor. Fear me. Okay, this is marked as right foot, and this is marked as right foot. I hate this part. So as I was mentioning before, they did go ahead and paint the inner thighs on his legs. I guess the idea was to try and make it look like he wasn't wearing a bikini cut, I guess, and kind of closer to hot pants. I don't really think that was necessary. Like, they don't do this with the wrestling figures, so I don't know why they decided to do it here. It just looks a little bit weird. Also, something to note, they're actually showing the bottom of the abs on here as well. So I think these are a little bit taller than our standard origins have been. So we'll slide his belt. Put him there. And we'll stick the new toupee on, or the old toupee, or whatever you want to call it, the traditional toupee. And he's got a little spot here to hook the claw shield, which does kind of look a bit weird and does not stay in very well at all. See, this is part of the problem, this pin here being so prominent there. You actually kind of need to have the claw shield facing backwards in order for it to sit right, which usually it sits kind of more down because it also works as the sheath for the dagger form of the Sword of Omens. Oops. Yeah. I do wish they would have made the hands a little bit, the fingers on the hands a little bit longer so they enclose the sword a bit better. This doesn't work particularly well in my opinion. Like, it's already popped off while I was moving it previously, as you saw. I do actually like that this is a new harness here. But actually, let's go ahead and, while we're thinking about this, there's LionO shirtless, which is something I don't think we've ever gotten in a ThunderCats toy line before. As I have mentioned before, my plan had been to get multiples of these guys so that I could go ahead and display them in both forms, at least initially for the ThunderCats. I don't know if I'll be doing that with any of the Eternian characters, probably not. That being said, LionO's Eternian form looks great, as does his Thundarian form. I like these two figures both quite a bit. See, I kind of feel like there was more care put into this crossover line than there was in the Turtles of Grayskull. That's just my opinion based on what I'm looking at here, because these guys do look really good, although I'll probably be changing my mind when Panthro comes by. So with all that being said, I think the ThunderCats Masters of the Universe crossover line is off to a really good start. Between Chitara, Skelra, and LionO here, we got some really nice looking figures. They have two amazing forms, even if Skelra or Mumra is probably not quite the right color. LionO looks good both ways. My only complaints are the way the claw shield fits on his belt, the fact that the sword doesn't hold in there very well in his hand, because, actually, wait a minute. You know what? I think the one hand is malformed. So it does appear that we do in fact have a quality control issue here. So I'm not really sure what I can do about the malformed hand. So there's an issue there with some quality control. And now the sword does hold much better in the regular hand. Really not sure what I'm going to do about that, because I doubt I'm going to be able to get a replacement part from Mattel, and I don't think they're going to send me a whole new figure. Not that I'd want a whole new figure anyway. So I guess that's a bit problematic for us. But why don't you guys tell me what you think in the comments below? Have you picked up the ThunderCats Masters of the Universe crossover figures, and do you like them? And now, of course, we need to know if you're got a malformed hand on your LionO, or if I'm just that lucky. I did think the hand looked a little bit weird, but I just figured it was a new style, since this is like the first of the standard size I've seen. But if you enjoyed this look at the Masters of the Universe X ThunderCats LionO figure, please feel free to thunder that like button. And if you'd like to see more of my nonsense, you can subscribe. Thank you for watching. Peace and love. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't call him the heroic